the thing about DeSantis is that he had established such unbelievable credibility with the public in Florida that they were willing to go along with him in picking social issues. It didn't look like a distraction from his governance. It looked like an addition to his governance. Very often what you'll see from politicians,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, very often you'll see from politicians like, I'm doing a crap job governing, therefore, here's a red meat issue, and they just throw it out there. You see it from Democrats with abortion, you see it from Republicans sometimes on sort of fringe things that are...
Democrats didn't bring up abortion as an issue. You did. You got Roe v. Wade revoked. Democrats didn't bring that up.
Considered fringe social issues. For DeSantis, it was part and parcel of
fringe social issue of reproductive rights.
His broader agenda, which is, I stand with parents. And that was built on top of the, I'm not going to force you to mask your kids. I'm not going to take your kids out of school. Yep. I'm going to make sure that your kids aren't forced to get a vaccine.
If you send me an email, Ash in the Stars, with an article, I can look at it.
Right? I'm going to do all of these things for you. And on top of that, I'm going to make sure your kids aren't indoctrinated.
And he did.
Right? And he did. And that's why, again, they would do these polls in Florida, and the National Democrats would be like, this is so crazy, it's so radical. And then they'd poll these issues in Florida, and they'd find these were actually real popular issues in Florida. But it's a different thing when Ron DeSantis, very competent governor who's able to handle a hurricane, does it, versus when Doug Mastriano, quasi-crazy person, apparently, does it in Pennsylvania. When Doug Mastriano campaigns on that, people are like, well, yeah, but that's also attached to like all this other stuff that you're saying over here. It's an adjunct to sort of the main event.
But to Bill's point, you know, the press, whatever you do as a Republican, the press are going to ask you, well, what about a 12-year-old girl who gets pregnant when she's raped by her father?
Right.
You know, just silly questions like that. You know, just like totally out of left field, like ridiculous, irrelevant questions like that. You know. It's like asking us crazy stuff like, hey, have you considered that your policies would bring about monstrous suffering? These fucking...
And they're going to ask you those questions. And I think that those are the things, every Republican who gets that question, anybody could have told them he was going to get that question. They're all like, yeah. And you have to have a holistic approach. You're absolutely right about this, Ben. We have no argument about the competence issue. And I think it's everything with a politician. These guys are supposed to be executives. They're supposed to run things. They're supposed to run the thing that they're given. But you have to have a holistic, a visionary kind of approach.
This is where I think that I keep coming back to the same theme of competence, because I think that the Democrats' pitch on democracy doesn't hold, and it wasn't going to hold.
Yeah.
But the one thing it did is it made some people in the Republican Party look clownish. And when you're able to make the other party look clownish,
it's always good.
It's a very positive thing for your own party, right? The whole art of politics is make it very difficult to vote for your opponent, make it very easy to vote for you.
Yeah.
And the Democrats did not make it easy to vote for themselves. But they did make it kind of hard to vote for some of the Republicans, right? They did a fairly good job at labeling some of the Republicans, and the Republicans did a good job of falling right into those boxes sometimes in competitive House races, in a lot of these Senate races. And Republicans need to understand that it's easy to make it hard to vote for the Democrats. That part's the easy part, because what they're doing is so crazy and so nutty. But you actually have to make it really easy to vote for you. And what makes it easy to vote for you is that you appear as though you can do the job. You don't appear as though your chief mechanism is attention getting and I must be on TV.
Or mean, like when Carrie Lake deferred to that woman whose son had died. So I'm not going to.
I agree. You can even outlast some of the sort of more fringy positions that are.
Yeah, I like how obvious it is that this is like how to contain your sociopathy for the purpose of running an election, right? How mean you are. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, you might be like a contemptuous piece of shit who quietly bubbles with like antipathy towards all life. But don't appear mean when you're talking to people, you know?
Are perceived like the election stuff from Carrie.
Pretty quiet compared to the video. I have a headache there.
Like you can outlive that if you are perceived as not mean. If you're perceived as baseline competent.
Ronald Reagan, you could hate everything Reagan stood for, but it's virtually impossible to hate the guy because he just didn't carry any venom with him, you know?
I think you can actually hate him a little bit. I think you can. He's basically like the origin point of everything horrible in this country in the recent past. So yeah, I can. He did let like a bunch of gay people die and considered it like a plague from God. Yeah, I can. He's like a mass murderer. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm okay with that actually.
It was just clearly a good-natured guy.
I mean, that's the Oz campaign. So the Oz campaign is not about anything other than he just appeared feckless.
Yeah.
He appeared incompetent, right? He was getting hit with crudité and
He couldn't
your
pronounce the name of the
houses in
grocery
Pennsylvania, and he wasn't super well versed on the issues. And Fetterman's a clown. I mean, just put aside his physical condition. The dude's a clown. He's a lifelong clown. I mean, like he's been, as I've said before, a career useless person who's been living on his parents' money while being mayor of a city that has 1,800 people in it. Okay, literally my HOA has more people than John Fetterman's city that he was mayor of. If I were mayor of my HOA, I would have.
Doesn't that conflict with your point, though? I mean, why are they able to run a clown and win?
Wait, what? Oz has no political experience. What? Wait, we're lambasting Fetterman for having a small amount of political experience compared to Oz's nothing? What is this? When did that become relevant?
Oz had he also had, what was his campaign about? It had no message.
Well, I mean,
That's the answer.
A lot of these Republicans, that's the question. What is your campaign actually about? What's the national message of the Republican Party?
Well, so this ties into this question of leadership, and we all know tomorrow, well, we know that we're going to get one presidential candidate next week, but the question is, who is the kingmaker? So just before I came on, I overheard the chatter about, Trump as kingmaker seems to be weakening because some of his candidates didn't do very well. Then that raises the question, is DeSantis the kingmaker? DeSantis's pick in Colorado, who Trump snubbed, he lost, Joe O'Dea, I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's name.
He doesn't DeSantis pick.
But he endorsed him, and Trump wouldn't endorse him.
We're all talking about.
Wait, so DeSantis, so your case in favor of Donald Trump being good at endorsing people.
No, I'm not making that case at all.
Celebrated the loss of a Democrat, of a Republican.
No, but I'm not making that case at all. I'm just saying that we've said here on the show, Donald Trump is kingmaker, he's done. So then the question is, who's the kingmaker? The next natural person would be Ron DeSantis, but one of the picks where Ron DeSantis diverged from Donald Trump was this race in Colorado. That guy lost too. So is DeSantis the kingmaker? Is someone else the kingmaker?
He's the governor of a state.
I think
in his state he cleaned the hell up.
I think the fact that we're having this conversation is an indication for why we don't win as much as we should, because we're talking about candidates and we're not talking about the message. We're talking about which person, what person, without questioning your points about you have to have effective candidates, yes. But ultimately, if you think about it, if you look at the Democratic Party, you have Fetterman, who's got serious brain impairment. So does Dianne Feinstein. So does Nancy Pelosi. So does Joe Biden. Kamala Harris was just born stupid. But people continue to vote for them because they're not voting for them. They're voting for the message. They're voting for what that thing is. Yeah. They know what it is, and they vote for it. And they vote for it despite the fact that they're voting for Joe Biden. There's nobody out there thinking Joe Biden's awesome. They're voting for Biden because of what his message is.
But what's your message? You're rambling. What's your message? I know what your message is. It's racism and queerphobia. So what is your?
I happen to disagree with that message, but I know what it is, right? If you say woke policy to me, I know exactly what that means.
Woke policy. I guess now that woke has kind of receded back to its ultimate definition, which is any kind of liberal progressivism. Like, woke means anything to the left of, like, Mussolini's Italy. So in that case, I guess he does know exactly what it means, right? It means, like, degenerate,
How would you describe Republican policy? Yeah. What would you say?
Yeah, well, different races are different, but I guess that's why I'm asking this question.
What's the national message?
Different races are different. Sorry.
Well, it diverges, and you're seeing that play out in different races, but that's why I'm asking the question about leadership. So forget about even the presidential contest, just who is leading the Republican Party? You remember after George Bush, the Democrats had this line. They said, Rush Limbaugh is the de facto leader of the Republican Party. And, Rush was fabulous, but that was just a campaign line from Democrats. So that is my question.
Well, DeSantis doesn't have to be kingmaker because he's the governor of a. I mean, that should be Trump because he's not currently in office. That's typically he'd be fulfilling that role.
But if he's not, then who is?
Well, maybe there isn't one. But I think one of the problems the Republicans have is that, to your point, I mean, with a lot of these Democrats, at least from the public perception side of it, they know what their candidates are about. And even if they seem to be kind of crazy, they sort of believe what they're saying. I think with Republicans, the public perception is that there are more Republican politicians or candidates who are just kind of out there saying stuff.
Yes.
and that's all they're doing. Like Oz is a perfect example of that. Just a guy out there just saying whatever, and I think the Republicans have more of that. At least the public perceives the Republican Party has more of that.
Also, there was also a timing issue. So in the Oz race, if you actually watch the dynamics of the Oz race, Fetterman.
I can't help but notice that they are not saying anything. They're not describing any of the actual things they believe in because, of course, the only thing they meaningfully campaign on is opposition to liberal progressivism and hatred of minority groups.
Opened this massive lead early. Huge lead on Oz, like right out of the gate. And the reason is because he spent a lot of money attacking Oz and wrecking him right out the gate. Right, like the campaign opened, and he was like, I'm going to label Oz. You watched Oz's unfavorables go just sky high almost immediately. And so then Oz spends the rest of the race trying to drag himself back into the race. So the question is, why are people voting for Fetterman? The answer is they weren't. They were voting against Oz because this is a mistake that Republicans routinely make, by the way. Trump doesn't make this. This is
wrong. 100% wrong. The main reason that people voted for Fetterman in exit polls was because they highly prioritized authenticity, trust, and reliability. It's because Fetterman comes across as like an authentic dude, and Oz is like a sleazy piece of shit, TV show host, like dribbling little liar, and everyone can see it. Also, Fetterman is tall. That's important.
This is the one thing where Trump actually, he'll never let anybody wreck him before he wrecks them. Like he plays bumper cars really well. And so if he feels even the threat of somebody, this is why he's preempting DeSantis right now. He immediately goes out there and he hits them first. But
that's true.
Republicans have a nasty habit of thinking, don't worry, people don't pay attention until the last month of the election. And that's when I'll claw my way back in. Yeah. And by that point, you're trying to recharacterize your own candidacy. Yeah. And if you're a bad candidate, it's impossible to recharacterize your own candidacy.
I maintain that this entire discussion is tactics. And I'm talking strategy.
That's fair.
Tens of millions of people voted for Joe Biden because they love Bobby Kennedy, right? That's the answer. Yeah. They're voting for Joe Biden because of the love that they had for Bobby Kennedy.
What? This guy's old, man. This guy's living in a different time. Everyone else is here having a sit down. It's 2022. This guy's got grainy black and white newsreel footage streaming through his ears. What the fuck is he talking about?
And that message has been consistent. It's diverged, but it's been consistent. You said, well, the messaging is kind of varying depending on the candidate. Well, It shouldn't, right? It shouldn't. There is a cause that we all believe in that the reason we're sitting in these chairs.
But there's a big difference between, Oz runs a Chamber of Commerce race. I'm going to lower your taxes and sell the culture down the river. And J.D. Vance and Blake Masters run race. I'm going to lower your. But there's a big difference between, Oz runs a Chamber of Commerce race. I'm going to lower your taxes and sell the culture down the river. And J.D. Vance and Blake Masters run these extremely cultural, nationally minded, pro-family campaigns. And who knows, Blake right now doesn't seem to be doing very well. JD obviously won the race. So, but those messages are quite divergent.
Yeah, but Morning in America with Ronald Reagan.
Guys, I'm trying to pay attention to this again. Have they given a message? Have they said like, hey, what do we offer the American people? Once? At any point, have any of these very wealthy, powerful men said, here's what we're offering the American people? Okay, great.
In '84, you're 5,000 votes, a complete sweep, everything. Yeah. And you've got Make America Great Again in 2016. These are positive messages, and they're clear. We know what it means. They're not policy messages. They're virtually spiritual messages, right? This is the key to victory, and all you have to do is just look at the scoreboard. You look at the electoral map.
Notice how he is exclusively focused on message and not policy. It's 100% what can we sell it to them as, not what can we do for them. There's they're not for all. This is a rarity, but there are Democrats who rightfully consider being in office as a form of public service. Not all of them. I'm not saying Hillary Clinton does or whatever, but there are Democrats. There are people in the Democratic Party who consider the act of being an elected official a public service, which is the right way to think about it. And at the very least, there are a great many people who support the Democrats who do. These men are contemptuous of that idea. The idea that people in power exist to serve those who elect them, that's like not even here. This is 100% like power strategizing. They're talking about this like it was corporate politics, you know, where democracy and fairness aren't even on the table. It's just about who ends up on top after all the chips have been played.
For Reagan's 2 wins, right? It's unbelievable. And it's because he came out here, he came into the race with very few negatives compared to Trump. He wasn't nearly as annoying as Trump could be, but mostly he came out with I have a vision for America that's a better place. He didn't come out running against Hubert Humphrey or Johnson or Carter. He didn't even run against. He basically, Carter wasn't even there. It's like, you've had your chance. He came out with this, it's morning in America. We can
Wait, did he just shut somebody else down?
Wasn't even there. It's like, you've had your chance. Or Carter. He didn't even run against. He basically, Carter wasn't even there. It's like, you've had your
Okay, I thought he was saying that to the person who said right. I'm sorry. I just, oh, how funny that would have been. No, he didn't. Yeah, okay.
Chance. He came out with this, it's morning in America. We can always renew this nation. It's not the end of our days. It's not our finest hour. We're just getting started. And that resonated with everybody. And so there are people who are still voting Republican because of how much they love Ronald Reagan. And the thing about Donald Trump is he has the ability to generate tremendous excitement because people believe he's not beholden to anybody, and I believe that too, certainly. But the one thing that seems to be missing is that kind of almost like that happy warrior commitment to the sunrise instead of this kind of, you know, sniping at people.
Well, I mean, sort of the locus of his attention is not the principal. The locus of attention is him.
It's him.
And in 2016, it seemed like it was more to principle because
Man, these guys are like sharks. They are really circling around Trump right now. I don't think these guys understand, or maybe they do, and they're just trying to move things over without fully acknowledging it. GOP strategists are going to align with DeSantis over Trump. The GOP voter base is loyal to Trump. These guys see that DeSantis is the better pick, and they're right. They're correct in that assessment. But a lot of the GOP has been motivated, has been energized by Donald Trump, and that's not going to carry over through some, you know, factual, like, highly analytical and, you know, like, process. This could, how the GOP handles this move over could be really difficult because Trump is going to be outwardly antagonistic to DeSantis. He already has.
because he actually got caught up in it. And I think that since then, since 2020, particularly because of the election, I think that the locus of attention has been inward focused, and it's been a real problem for him. Well, you know, if tonight is not something that you necessarily want to remember, there's still things in life that you do want to remember. Fond memories of the past, like that time you thought there was going to be a red wave, like the days when inflation wasn't breaking records on a monthly basis, when we weren't depleting our strategic oil reserves, when our president could occasionally form a coherent sentence. No doubt you'll want to relive those halcyon chapters as you get together with your friends and family this holiday season. But if you recorded any of those favorite memories on an old media mechanism like a photo, VHS tape, Super 8 film, or slide, they're at risk from water damage, fire, or just plain old photo decay. You need to digitally preserve those moments so they can be safe forever. You need to send them in to Legacy Box. Trusted by over 1 million families, Legacy Box is the simplest and safest way to digitize all your aging tapes, film reels, and photos. Send everything in, they'll send everything back on a thumb.
Well, I guess they definitely know their target demographic, because only ancient people are like, hey, can you digitize my cassette tape? Okay.
Drive the access right off the top line, legacybox.com/election. So
that's a great thing to do online. Another great thing to do online, peruse social media, though sometimes it makes us pull our hair out. So fortunately, we have two lovely ladies doing it for us. Ladies, what's going on the Twitters, etc.?
Okay, guys, obviously this red...
God. Fucking blonde white woman GOP phrenology, I swear to Christ. I could not give any less of a shit what these people have to say.
That President Trump did.
ExpressVPN, all of our best advertisers, really huge impact in the country. You've seen it with the work Matt's been doing, even at the State House a month ago with his Stop the Mutilation rally. I mean, there's teeth to what we're doing. It's not just vanity, although some of it is just my own vanity. I will confess that every now and then you start a razor company just so you can feel like a really cool guy and fight back against the SOBs over at Harry's. Tonight's not going exactly the way that we had all hoped. where we thought maybe at the beginning of the
It
night there
sucks,
could be.
man. It just sucks.
It sucks.
Oh, what an audio drop.
We thought maybe at the beginning of the
It
night there
sucks,
could be.
man. It just sucks.
It sucks.
To be, I'm not going to be the voice of
Straight, at
optimism.
least.
But if we do take the House, even if it's by
If we
3
do.
seats, and I know the fact that we have to say if
We're
is
saying
crazy.
if about the
Yeah,
House
that's
at this
crazy.
stage.
This is nuts.
And I don't think, I mean, the Senate, we could still take the Senate. And even if we take them both by 1 seat, that is a big win, and that actually does impede Joe Biden. And it's not what we wanted, but it's something.
So what if we lose? That
See,
also
again, impede Joe Biden, not let us pass bills. The way these guys talk about politics, it's really clear. They do not care about any of you. I'm honestly shocked by how transparent they are. Like, I can just imagine, like, your average Republican watching this live stream has 1.5 million views on the VOD. Like, how can anyone just think for a second? These wealthy media men are clearly not at all concerned about using this power to help the voters. They love it, though. I know they love it because Republicans are all little subs who like being stepped on. I'm aware, yes, but
so big with like,
Losing is not winning.
I would like to push back in a
Continual
negative
regression.
direction for a change. Because I was listening to Megyn, and she's a really smart lady. She really is incisive when she's talking about these things. But, these guys, the Democrats need to be rebuked. And
Yes.
they're not going to be rebuked in the way they should have been. And I don't really know. I think, part of that is some badly picked candidates. But I don't know if that's the whole story. I think that there is just a confusion and a division in the Republican Party that is not ready for the fight at hand. These guys, everything the Democrats touch turns to crap. Every single thing they put their fingers on get worse. This has been true for 60, 70 years. Who was it? Jason Riley wrote that book about blacks saying, please stop helping us. I think we could all say that for 60, 70 years. Who was it? Jason Riley wrote that book about blacks saying, please stop helping us. I think we could all say that to the Democrats. Please stop helping us. Just leave us alone because you make everything worse. And yet
any examples at all?
the electorate has not rebuked them in the manner they've deserved. And I think that that's a bad thing. I mean, I think that, I think we're still going to take the House. I think we have a chance at the Senate. It's going to be a lot less in the House than it's probably going to be your trickle numbers.
I mean, it's like right now.
Yeah.
We're talking they're forecasting 7 seats.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I want to be, hey, guys, notice how all of these men right now are acknowledging the loss and not alleging fraud. Pay attention to see if any of them start alleging fraud in the near future without any additional evidence coming in. Because when they allege fraud, when they have been alleging fraud for years, they do know that they're lying. Maybe some people like Trump genuinely believe it, but for the most part, they're aware of the fact that they have no evidence and that they're lying. What we're seeing here is a live reaction before they have time to cultivate the narratives that they'll use to continue promoting that misinformation. But in the future, maybe down the line they'll decide, oh, we can get a little bit more, more attention, more favorability if we do the whole election fraud hoax thing again. And they might push it then. I mean, we'll see.
7 seats, less than 10 seats.
I think it's going to be more than
Well, it's the job of the Republicans to articulate what that rebuke is supposed to be exactly.
I agree with you.
And they didn't do that. And to go back with what we were saying before, it really comes down to what is your message? What's the Republican Party's message? What does it stand for? These candidates, what do they stand for? And the curse of the Republican Party has been this way for years now. Is these candidates who you listen to them talk, and they're just saying things. I don't believe that they believe anything they're saying. They're just sort of talking at random, and picking up
No specifics at all. Nothing. They have nothing to say.
talking points, whatever works, and they say it. I mean, of course, that's all politicians do it to a certain extent.
Biden, Schumer, Pelosi. I mean, that's true of them too. I think. I don't think
Right,
they-
but
I don't agree.
it's worse. It's worse
They
with the
have a-
Republicans.
And
I think.
I go back. I always go back to the fact that they hate the GOP hated Reagan. They didn't want him. The minute he was gone, I mean, obviously Bush was vice president, but they kind of pushed Bush on him to begin with, and you got this mediocrity. I mean, the Bushes, both Bushes were good people. I like them personally, but they were not not conservatives. As Buckley said, they were conservative, but they were not a conservative.
Yeah, right.
And that made all the difference. And I think that when you think about the Mitt Romneys, the John McCains, and the Jeb Bushes, who they would have run if they could have. This is a party without a vision, without any real goal that they're trying.
It's like the Tories in England. They're just playing to not lose.
I want to push back a tiny bit with a question. There is a question that we haven't asked since the mood turned dour, and that is, what role, if any, was played by, in the last week of this campaign, Donald Trump reasserted himself in a major way into the national conversation. He started attacking Ron DeSantis. He held a giant rally last night, which, everyone from Benny Johnson to Seb Gorka was intimating would be him announcing for the presidency on the eve of the election, which makes a voter. And maybe it's one of these young.
He leaked to Axios a week ago that he's going to announce. So we know he's announcing. It's just a question of which day he's doing it.
He thrust himself back into the conversation at a time when this election should not have in any way been by him. Did that have an impact on what's actually happening?
But of course it does. And I think that I don't know. I think he might pay a price for that. I think that he is. I thought for 3 years he was one of the best presidents of my lifetime. I really did. Yep. I thought he did wonderful things. If he'd only appointed the justices who overturned Roe, he would have been in the Hall of Fame for me. But even so, he was better than that. He did really good things. He was
like.
Could be incredibly annoying, but he was really terrific, and I celebrated him.
Nothing. Again, nothing. These men are empty. They're empty. That's it. It's just the real things that he's happy with. Again, dismantling of democracy, corporate tax cuts, reactionary politics. That's it. That's it. They like Trump because he was able to be more loudly that. That's it. But he can't. It's nothing. There's nothing here.
After he lost that election, and you're right, that it seems to drive people crazy. I mean, Al Gore started to think the world was going to end and sold that.
I met Mike Dukakis once in college. This was decades after he lost. And we weren't even going to ask him about that race that he in '92. Within 5 minutes, he brought it up. It was angry as though it happened the day before.
And Jimmy Carter is still an angry man. You can see it in his eyes, that rage. It's obviously a tough thing, but with a guy with his ego, with Trump's ego, I think it's just absolutely transformative and has transformed him from an egotist to an utter egotist, I mean, he was always about himself, but now he's not about anything.
Jimmy Carter? What? The rage-fueled. Okay, I don't even.
Anything else? I think it's dangerous.
Okay, so this football team sucks. Okay, let's just put it this way. And some coaches need to be fired.
Yeah.
So are we going to fire some coaches or not? I mean, that's really what the Republican Party is going to have to ask itself. And I don't just mean Trump here. I mean, where's the House leadership?
Yeah.
Okay, Kevin McCarthy led a House that had 212 seats into an election with a historically unpopular president and an economy that's in the middle of an incipient recession and 40-year high in inflation. And he's going to pick up less than 10 seats. Does he need to get, where's the leadership class of the Republican Party? It does not exist. And the one place it does exist, the Republicans did really, really well. Right? And so the question is, where's the leadership class of the National Republican Party? Donald Trump is not the leader of the National Republican Party because the only thing that he leads is Donald Trump. He's not leading the Republican Party because he's not interested in the Republican Party. He's literally tweeting out against a candidate in his own party who lost and attacking members of his own party in the middle of election cycles who are not sufficiently bending the knee to him. So he's clearly not the leader of the Republican Party in any real sense, in the sense that a coach is a person who leads the team onto the field so that they achieve victory as a team. That's not something that Trump is interested in. He's interested in him, and if there's some sort of ancillary victory that the team achieves, great. But he can take care of it.
The other thing to remember is Donald Trump in 2016 was not a Republican in any. He took it was a hostile.
Ooh, it's really all coming undone here, isn't it? This is going to be such an interesting election cycle.
This is not a moral critique of Donald Trump. This is a simple description of the situation. He is not the leader of the Republican
But that's what I'm saying. He never was a Republican.
That's fine. I agree with you. All of that's true. And none of this is, to sort of ignore all the good things that he did while he was president of the United States. But he's not the leader of anything other than Donald Trump. This has always been true of Donald Trump. If there was ancillary crossover, it was ancillary.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not the leader. McCarthy clearly is not a leader because he presented no agenda at all. And not only that, he was unable to dissociate from Trump to the extent that the election was not about Trump.
Yeah.
Right? You would figure that he would do what he would have to do in order to make sure that his own House members could win. Namely, do whatever he had to do to take the hit from Trump. He's in a safe district, McCarthy. Take the hit from Trump and create room between the other House candidates and Trump sufficient that they could win. He didn't. So where exactly is the House leadership in all of this? McConnell, I will say he did his best to intervene in, again, this is not me standing for Mitch McConnell. I got a lot of problems with Mitch McConnell. McConnell tried to intervene in a bunch of Senate races where Donald Trump basically overruled him in the primaries, and he got none of his favorite candidates. He wanted Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. He did not want Herschel Walker in Georgia. He did not want Blake Masters in Arizona.
But then is that not to say that Trump is the leader of the Republican Party in that he overrules the rest of the leaders?
Well, I mean, no. So he's the leader in the Republican Party in the sense that he can put his thumb on the scale, but he's not a leader in the sense that he actually gives a crap whether the team wins or not. I mean, he proved that in Georgia last time around.
Trump definitely hasn't helped, but this is, like you've been saying all night, this is really candidate question.
I agree with you.
And I was saying before about these Republican candidates who are just saying things they don't believe what they're saying. And you said, what about Schumer and Pelosi and that sort of, and yeah, that's true on the Democrat side of it. But at the same time, how many conservatives are in the Democrat Party masquerading as liberals? So like it doesn't exist.
Right.
Whereas in the Republican Party, you've got Dr. Oz is a far left.
Yeah.
He's a far leftist. I mean, he was shilling for transing the kids in 2011.
Yeah, and abortion months ago.
Right, and they nominate him for they give him the nomination, and then voters are saying, why the hell would we go with this guy? If we want a liberal Democrat, we got the real deal here. Why would we go with this guy?
Is he suggesting that Oz lost because all of the liberals who would have voted for a more conservative Republican candidate were instead lured over to the what? Wait, what? So is he saying that everyone who voted in PA was left-leaning, and the people who voted for Oz, there were liberals who voted for Oz who ended up actually voting for Fetterman because Fetterman was the more liberal? What does this mean?
The Republicans do that. You take leftists that don't believe any of this.
They may hold up Manchin, but I think it would be a weak. I think their argument
would be the one possible example.
The exception that proves the rule.
Right.
I'd like to invite on now our good friend Dennis Prager from PragerU, among other things. Noteworthy author, noteworthy radio host.
Dennis.
But I think that PragerU.
I think he's saying Oz lost because he was a fake conservative. That's such a stupid analysis.
Will outlive almost anything on the internet today as far as just being an amazing, lasting legacy of unbelievable intellectual content for particularly young people, but I think anyone to really understand the world in which they live. Dennis, thank you so much for coming on. Listen, it's late in the evening. We're slurring our words. I've already said like munja, fuzzy sushi. I don't know. We really need the help of a seasoned and professional broadcaster, so thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm on Danish time. I just came in from Denmark.
Oh my God!
So wow! I don't even know. I don't know what time it is. I am theoretically 3 hours behind you, 2 hours behind you, and 7 hours ahead of you. So it's a non-issue. I just want to tell you guys.
Okay, I'm trying to skip ahead here, and this is what lurks on the horizon. So that's cool. Then they talk to Dennis for a bit, but the idea of a bunch of tired dipshits talking to a boomer over like a lagging call sounds really fucking boring. Is that it for the night?
A lot of Trump candidates look like they're in trouble. What does this say to you about leadership of the Republican Party going forward?
So, okay, I have come to the conclusion that there really is such a thing as Trump derangement syndrome. I never used the term for 4 years of his presidency. I thought it was a little wild. I'm convinced it exists, but I am now also convinced that the opposite exists. Trump preoccupation syndrome, or whatever term one would like to use. Not suffering from either. I don't think, let's put it this way. If Donald Trump were to say, I am not running, because I don't think I should be the issue.
That's a very Trump thing to say. Yeah, I could imagine him saying that. You know, I'm gonna relax and pull myself away from the center of attention because I don't think I'm what matters here. That's a very
Rather, the damage the left and the Democrats are doing should be the issue. The man would be regarded by most people on our side as a saint.
Yes.
but
Yes.
But Dennis, if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a wagon. Okay.
okay, yeah.
Correct. That is correct. Now, Ben could tell you the original Yiddish version of that. I don't know if it goes over.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it does make me think it's time for the Republican Party to wake up. And when I need to wake up, you know what I do? I get a nice big mug of Black Rifle coffee. I do. It's been a long night here, folks, over at the Daily Wire headquarters. And on nights like...
Is that they're not going to follow up on that thought?
See how you can underperform to this extent and still hope to be seen as sort of the durable leader of the Republican Party in the House. And I will say this: there's, again, I sound like the routine Mitch McConnell defender here. He spent $234 million from the Senate fund. Yeah. Donald Trump spent about 27 cents and picked 3/4 of the candidates.
Had $100 million.
No, I'm not anti-cocaine, Mitch.
By the way, I will also mention that if you actually watched, one of the most ridiculous things in this entire race was Donald Trump sent out a fundraising letter. I believe it was for Blake Masters from his listserv, and it showed what the division of the money was that you gave. It was 99 cents to Donald Trump's PAC and 1 cent to Blake Masters. Okay, that is not raising money for Blake Masters, as it turns out. If the Republican Party is going to be foolish enough that there are no recriminations for the people who actually picked the worst candidates in the race, refused to fund them, and then left them out to dry while celebrating Joe O'Dea losing in Colorado, then you get what you. I'm sorry, you get what you deserve. Again, I'll vote for that guy if he's the nominee because the Democrats are worse. But you don't have to do that. You could, theoretically have a thought about maybe this isn't the best idea. How many times are we going to run this same play over and over and over?
Well, at least one more.
You mentioned Blake Masters, though, and we'll see what happens with Blake. But it's an interesting test case because Blake Masters and J.D. Vance were basically the same candidate with the same background, with the same backers, with the same platform, with the same actually kind of interesting departure from the old GOP stuff. And J.D. wins, and Blake is in trouble right now. And who knows when we'll find out if he wins or loses.
Well, I will give you a very, very easy answer for that, and that is that Donald Trump won.
Do you think the audience here opposes the Daily Wire because they're shitting on Trump? No, I don't really think so. I just, considering the fact that the big power base for the GOP is rural areas, sorry, but I don't think that these incestuous corn-fucking inbreds are going to switch over to DeSantis willy-nilly. Nobody can match these. Hey, fun fact, you actually get to be more classist the more rural areas vote red. You're actually allowed to. It's not going to be easy to move these guys over. And a lot of the reason they got energized for Trump is because Trump is a giant screaming retard who shits in his hand and flings it at people. They like that. DeSantis doesn't do that, So, I don't know. Hey, I'm an incest corn-fucking inbred. I'm not voting for DeSantis. There are good incestuous corn-fucking inbreds. I do not want to suggest that is not the case. Fetterman appealed to the rural types, though? Yes, but the general pattern is rural types go really fucking hard for Trump. Even suburban areas have been leaning more left lately.